everybody. Welcome to glass blowing today here at the workshop of the Happle. The creators of the Happle, Dave and Mastah, are here with me today. We're going to watch them create some glass products, including we're going to go through the steps of the Happle with Dave.
For example, not quite roundish looking balls that can't be called oranges because oranges are circular, so you're reduced to looking at it going, you know what? It's kind of a pear. No, you know what? It's an apple. It's an apple, right? Right? Because guess what? Nobody actually has a definition of what an apple shape is.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's thousands of different breeds of apples, right?
Correct.
And so a little bit interesting. The only reason why they're apples is because of the fact that I got away with making oblong shaped circles. That's like literally the why I do it that way.
And
one day he said, "Hey, that looks like an apple."
Yeah. And you don't have to worry about a consistent shape if you're calling it
That's
an
right.
apple, right?
Yeah.
That's right. And I can tell you, there is no consistency in the last 10,000.
Everyone is its own.
I bet you can find two that are the same in 10,000.
Not if you pull out the calipers. No. To this day, every single one is hand blown and eyeballed. I'll show and demonstrate that to you. I actually don't use a mold or a template or anything like that.
Yeah.
I had to start doing it just to make sure that it fits in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't get too big, right? But that's about it. But yeah, and that's the only reason why I've been able to make so many of them, or else I go numb.
Yeah, the Happle, very popular.
Have you got a box there you can show, Al?
of the Happle?
Yeah. There you go. There's a Happle.
Yeah, this is the Happle here. Right.
Yes, that is the Happle there.
Okay. And there's a stem, just like on any Happle.
Yeah.
Okay.
That stem essentially.
Apple.
Okay, so this, guys, is a BT bottle with a little straw on the end of it. Okay. Back in the day, we used to have glass bottles, soda pop in glass bottles. Okay. Soft drinks, glass bottles. We used to take a little pebble or a dime.
Yeah.
We used to stick into the glass bottle. We used to use a lighter, heat up one corner of it, which is
Damn, got to do it again.
evening out the wall thickness in the kiln, right?
Correct.
But we heat up one little corner of it, stress out one little spot
And it
of
breaks.
the bottle, and then if we do it in the right way and do the right tap, the pebble or the dime that's in the bottle will pop a hole out
Correct.
Yep.
of the side of the bottle, and then therefore you can take your bottle, stick your joint or your cigarette with a little bit of hash on it into the bottle, and it was called a bottle toke.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
This is a bottle toker. This is your cigarette,
Yep.
but you don't have to use a cigarette anymore. You can just place your hash on here and put it into here. It fills up, and then you just pull it through there. Now, part of the reason why this has been great is for so many people who used to use this old style technique, but you can really only do it with cigarettes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 'cause
During bottle time.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it with joints. People claim that they can do it with joints, but they're lying. Okay, it's not possible. It was always tobacco, right? And then so as guys got older and you had to quit smoking, you weren't able to do bottle tokes anymore because you were smoking. You just didn't want to have cigarettes around, right? So a lot of people had to give up hash because of the fact that they couldn't do any of it. So when we came up with this, it allowed more of the original old-timey smokers to be able to experience and enjoy hash for the first time without having to dilute it with tobacco, dry cannabis.
Yeah, and I'm a person that doesn't smoke tobacco, so I wouldn't like tobacco.
No, and so you never would have had a bottle toke.
Yeah.
Like that would never have been something that you would have appealed to you, right? You're like, no, I don't want the tobacco.
And when I did have one, it was, yeah. And then with cannabis, then you've got your cannabis included in your hash, so then you're not getting that. Just if you want just that hash
Yeah.
taste.
Well, what you're doing is you're making your cannabis a little stronger, but you're making your hash lot weaker because you're just adding. It's like no.
And
Yeah.
here's an interesting development within the legal market that's kind of it kind of dovetails nicely into the hash devices is right now within the legal market there's such a competition between the stores to attract and keep customers. They're doing everything they possibly can to keep them to come around. And what that usually means is that they're trying to get their customers as medicated or as high as possible, thinking that that's the best way to retain a customer. Is that fair? Right?
Some people THC is the main thing, correct?
Yeah.
For some people, yes.
So with something like this, we want to be able to provide them with a device that by the time they start smoking hash, they're already moved past dry flower, one strain at a time. They've moved into the pre-rolls, which are infused.
Yeah.
So the pre-roll dry tobacco or dry cannabis infused with this, infused with that, laced like dusted with this and that.
Yeah.
Right?
The KIF.
Well, the whole part of that new smokers lose is they lose the experience of learning about the different strains of cannabis and the effects of individual strains. Because everyone's getting a salad joint, as what we used to call it, right?
Yeah.
So no one had an idea of what strain did what because you don't know, right?
Especially in pre-rolls, they don't normally tell you what the strain
exactly.
is.
No, absolutely.
You might say premium cannabis.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell is that?
So what customers are coming in, they're buying single strains. It's not doing it for them. So now whether they turn to their bud tender, ask for recommendations, bud tenders always turn to an infused pre-roll because that's great bang for your buck from a consumer perspective, from a bud tender perspective. But what that's done is created this whole step in the cannabis community that everyone has skipped in the new legal market because in the old market, we had no choice but to try all the different dry flowers. We had no choice but to get one or two strains at a time.
When you
And
have
if you don't like it, you mix it.
What's that, Al?
And if you don't like it, you mix it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you didn't like it, you go back to your dealer.
or you wait till next
Or
week.
you go to your
Next
dealer
batch.
and you ask for something different. But really, it wasn't that. But now with these infused things, it's artificially gotten people more stoned without the actually understanding the benefits of indicas versus sativas. All of the stuff that the older people and all the stuff that the advocates and the educators want people to know about. So now what happens is they get tired of the pre-rolls, their taste buds and their cannabinoid receptors are all messed up because they don't know what they're getting. They can come back to a single strain of hash using one of the hash devices, right? And please, like this is the Happle's the affordable version of it. There's lots of hash devices out there, right? But just an opportunity to be able to smoke a pure hash just on its own without diluting it anyway, right?
Yeah,
This would be the
first time in decades where I was able to consume just straight hash.
All right, so who has the hash?
I do.
So I a question while you guys are getting the hash.
Yeah.
What's the price range of a Happle?
Retails for $54.
Retail.
That's very reasonable because you go and you can get just a simple bong for $120, but it's just that, right? So this is nice.
Which is nice. It's just that it's hash. You can just straight hash.
I've seen Al using his. How long will a piece of hash last in that?
Well, I myself, I've learned.
Let's find out, shall we?
I have learned with mine that
I don't want to use one of the new
single
ones.
person
Come
or
on,
multiple persons
Stop.
is would be different lengths of hash that you add to this. The amount that you put in.
Selling.
That's what I.
All right. So here, let's go through a demonstration. Oh, by the way, each one of these comes with their own set of instructions in both English and French because that's a requirement in Canada. We have to supply all advertising and literature in both official languages of Canada. So all you do is you pick your little snake, and instead of putting that into the middle of a joint, which is what I used to do, You have it on this
Yeah,
end.
that's what I'm doing right now, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So now what we do is we just light up the end of it, let it burn, and then it creates a little ember.
Yeah.
And the most important part of it is don't let it burn. Blow it out before putting it in, or else you could create this black mess in there.
Now some hash.
So this was built for the old school hash. This is the hash that your uncles and your grandparents would get. And this is the stuff that we would all treasure whenever we could get it, because we thought it was the best stuff, because it's the constant. It was our form of concentrate.
Correct.
Right? When we were young, right?
Yes. Yes.
This is our form of dabbing, right?
Yeah.
We used to love it, especially the old guys that smoking 5 or 6 joints for breakfast.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Al, as you can see here, it's brewing, it's filling up in this chamber. Once I get to a point where it's filled up to enough for my lungs,
Yeah.
it up, tick a little bit.
Because you can just
Suck
sip
it
it,
out.
right?
Yeah, and then just drink
You
it out
just
of the straw. And then
Yeah.
I put it back down, pulling it in, draws fresh air through it, so that way it's reloaded, reset, refills itself. If I forget about this, usually happens about the 4th or 5th one of them.
I get that.
After I've forgotten about it, it'll put itself out and it'll snuff itself out. I've anecdotally heard that this is a very efficient way to smoke your hash and consume your hash, because very, very little wastage.
And it's
You know,
personal.
it's
It's
all
personal,
really-
but you can share it. You
There you
know,
go.
it's like a drink. It's personal
Yeah.
size, but you can share it around the room. I have a student glass, and you can share that for hours on end.
Right. Yeah. And then and that's it.
So when it comes to the amount of hash that you put in there, being that it'll go out,
Eventually, yeah.
you can relight
And
it.
then you relight it. Yep. Yeah. No, I just put a big long snake into it and just
Okay.
forget about it. Like,
Yeah, because
and then I'll pull on it, and then, like I said, 2 or 3 of those, and then you forget that what you were doing or what you were smoking. Not
yeah, you don't smoke.
really.
A lot.
No, that's right. Yeah.
He doesn't share with his underlings.
I think a joint smoker would like that.
What's that, Al?
I think a joint smoker would like that.
Oh well, yeah, I smoke joints all the time.
There you go, Master. I'm gonna drop that into there for him, because he's a special one. He needs
Oh, he needs the fresh one.
Of course he does. He's master.
But look how beautiful that waterfall is.
Yeah.
It's yeah. That's one that didn't cross quality insurance, by the way. It's all right on the
But those are nice. If you've got five or six people sitting around, and you got 5 or 6 people, or 6 of those, you can just share it, but not share it.
Yeah, and my whole idea with it is, why share it when you can all have your own? And to your point with the party size one, any bigger than the chambers that we make is too big.
Too big.
The smoke,
Yeah.
the hash smoke just gets stale
Ah,
and old, right? Like, you know that old bomb smoke? Don't make sure
Yep.
you clear it out,
Yeah.
right? You know what we're doing, right?
Same thing.
Right?
Right.
Like, oh, look at that.
So,
That's
like-
super cool. Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at that! Look at that! Look, that's hash smoke. Hash smoke falls.
Yeah.
And this is why you should clean your apples.
Wow. Oh, hey! For your
Hey.
audience.
Hey.
For your audience.
Okay.
I highly recommend that if you drink coffee, get one of these things and you fill this with ISO,
Yeah.
right? And then when you're done with your Happle for the day and night, drop it in there, close it up. And when you wake up in the morning, pull it out, and you give yourself a little rinse in the water, and then you have a brand new Happle for the day, right? It'll always be clean, right? And then you just keep the lid on this, and then your alcohol will never be back.
That's really a cool idea. There you go. A tip. A Dave tip. An official
Ta-da.
Dave tip.
Dr. Martha Stewart.
Eh.
You were talking about snail smoke and stuff. With this, when it goes out, obviously there's going to be smoke in that chamber.
That's the fastest way to make the apple dirty. is to let smoke sit in there because it clings to the side immediately.
Yeah.
And otherwise it just dissipates because as you can see, once it fills up, I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, once it fills up, it starts to overflow,
Yeah.
right?
They
And
come on
it's
top.
like, I got somebody. Somebody.
It's starving for oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It needs
That's what I was wondering. Like at the end, obviously you're gonna have. Yeah.
That's why
And
I
then-
look up. There's no oxygen.
Enough. Yeah.
And then here's another reason. One of the things is I get a lot of criticism or questions about why this here is so loose and it rattles so much. Well, the reason for that is the airflow. Because if you had it sitting tight and not rattling, it just completely choke out and it would never stay lit.
You gotta keep.
You
You gotta
have
keep
to
some
have-
air in
You
there.
gotta have it. So that rattle has to happen only for it to work. Like
Yeah.
so, it's kind of one of those, which is a little contrary because people don't like glass rattling with this.
So yeah, well, you were just because it's gonna break, right? And then where would you get another stem?
If you break your stem,
Airswagshop.org.
yeah, or you message me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll do a call out and I'll encourage people to message me whenever
Okay.
they have a broken stem.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the fact that I'm doing impromptu quality assurance,
Right.
right? The number of stems I have to send out as a replacement would generally tell me whether or not this is a viable product, right?
Yeah.
And I give replacement stems out pretty much for free, and I can still do that because I only get one in maybe 1,000 every few months,
What
and
about,
it's never, but it's always because of negligence, right?
now people can lose them.
Or drop them.
Or drop them.
Yeah, and as far as for someone to replace that stem, they'd have to get a hold of you, unless you've got them available in the store.
They are
Yeah.
available.
They're
Oh,
available
separately?
in the store,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're available individually, but realistically, it's so hard to put a price on that little stem
Oh, I'm sure.
because that little stem, in my mind, that's the secret to it. You can take that stem and use it wherever you want to.
Mhm.
So the value of that stem is actually quite high towards the whole value of the whole piece. But I'm hard pressed to charge $25 for a replacement stem, right? It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
And then at the same time, like, I don't know. I have no idea. It hasn't, like 1 in 1,000 every few months is probably like, that means I'm sending out 10 or 15, right? It's not a big deal at all, right? So anyway.
Crap.
Hash shit's different.
So
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah. This is the point of the video, Al, where you start recording faster, maybe. Jump. Yeah. Use that 30 frames per second George Miller shit.
Now let's see where else we can go with this. As far as so these are available.
Take a moment, Al.
So as far as the retail stores, they could be available are they just available in Ontario retail stores?
Oh, everywhere.
Everywhere, so right across the country.
Yep.
So for people to go into the stores, see if they're there, ask if they're not there, and maybe they'll bring them in. That
I have a
happens.
question. Can you bang a nail in with a Happle like you did with the other thing?
Sure. Let's. I'll get you that Happle right now. Yeah. We'll send you that video. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We certainly can. Yes, we do.
I think he's looking for one.
Oh, maybe.
I know that I've taken my Happle on the road with me quite a few times.
Have you?
So what's that?
Now I know, and I know how did the full-on block when I said I didn't want to talk about this, but I will talk about it a little bit. The next iteration that both Master and I are working on our own versions of it. Water filtered hash devices.
Oh,
So water filtration. Yeah. So this is particularly my design. It's called the Drew Dot. And it looks a little bit, it's supposed to look like an egg in honor of the egg farming that happens here, but nobody sees the egg. I know.
Okay.
And then I like that with an egg. With the good black drop.
Yeah,
With the
yeah,
black
yeah.
drop, you know, you gotta use the black drop.
did you think you would be modeling today, Dave?
It's got the percolator in the
Yeah, it's got
bottom.
the percolated model. And the whole the secret with this one is that this chamber here acts as the internal Happle,
Right.
right? So that chamber is where the smoke fills up, and then you put water in the bottom so that it filters through.
And bubbles.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
found it very smooth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
were trying it. Yeah.
well, when I received it, I waited 5 days before I used it. So
Okay.
my first tote, everybody got to see the first time I used it in the video when we did the broadcast,
Oh, good.
and it was very smooth. Oh,
And don't hurt yourself, please.
here.
Let's try this.
Okay, to answer your question now.
Oh, here we go.
Lower. No. Okay, hang
Get
on.
the
I'm gonna turn this. Okay.
No, you're gonna cut this out if it doesn't work. Right?
You just cut it out yourself, Master.
Oh no!
Okay. All right. It broke. But how many times? How many times did you hit that for
That's
something that
good.
wasn't designed
Yeah.
to do that with?
Oh, those weren't test taps before? Then he just would tap, tap, tap.
Well,
tap,
any
tap.
tap.
Yeah!
Any tap.
You know who's really good at those stuff?
Oh, I'm gonna try it again. Here we go.
All right, I'll do it once more, and this time I'm only gonna hit it 5 times.
Five. Okay, we're gonna hit an apple.
Four
Apple on the nail.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, all right, that's great. Holy Jesus Christ.
How do you know what? You need to learn to count, mister.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So, I mean, that's, it's nice to see that because, a lot of people, one of the reasons they don't use pipes is because you drop them and they break.
So this tube is for the Happle body. That tube is for the mouthpiece. And this glass rod here is what I make the stems with.
Cool.
They come in 5-foot lengths. And we get them from Nortel Manufacturing in Markham, Ontario, Scarborough, Ontario. What I've got is set up a section of the tube. I take one of the long tubes and I break it in half. So I use half a section at a time. I plug up one hole on it and I put a mouthpiece on that. And a mouthpiece on the other side. They're hooked up to these blow hoses connected to this valve, which allows me to control which side I blow into. I've got a glass, the tube on this end, which is what I use as a blow tube or a handle, which I'll show you when I take it off. And here's the raw glass on this side. Now, these are the 3 tools I use to form and shape the Happles. And then the only other thing I have is this piece of glass here, which I use to pick molten glass off so I don't have to do it with my fingers,
Makes sense.
which you're not supposed to do, I learned. This Bunsen burner acts like the oven, and what it does is heats up the glass and gets it to a minimum temperature so that it doesn't blow up or crack when the higher temperature of the torch gets on it. First thing I've done is open up a hole on this main tube so I can connect it to this smaller tube. At this point, the glass is heated up enough, so I'll turn the Bunsen burner off. Connect two pieces of glass together. Once it's fused, I'll puff into it to make sure that it doesn't collapse on itself. Because as glass heats up and becomes molten, it wants to condense on itself. So it's always collapsing. So one of the things I'm doing with the blowing into the blow hose is to keep it from collapsing and closing itself off. Now what I have set up right now is I have a tube with hoses hooked up on both ends, a valve to be able to control which side I blow into so that I can control which way the pressure goes in. Not as big a deal on these pieces, becomes more important as you get into larger, complicated pieces like the Dewdrop. In our shop, sometimes when we turn our bigger flame on, it creates a popping sound, so we have a tendency to say fire in the hole, fire, and I didn't create a pop, which is great. You can edit in the sound effect later. I say Roger Rabbit. Wow. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up a section of this glass here. And you'll see here I have a little template that I've taped here. And my template, you'll notice that this tool is the right width for the length as well as the width of the Happle. So I look at that, make sure that this thing is still the same size. I do this every time because for some reason I'm worried that this tool will change size. Once I've gotten it hot and molten enough, I'll start puffing it out to shape and form the bottom of the apple, of the first apple. Yeah. Remember that thing I gave you before?
Right there, yeah. Right on now.
You want to slide that on now if you want to.
Yeah.
It'll help to cut that glare out a little bit.
There you go. Yeah, what Dave was mentioning was this device right here. I got in my hand, and what it allows me to do is to watch the flame. Because that can,
filters out the yellow. Filters out the sodium.
yeah, which can be end up where you get. Well, I guess it's not like a welding flash or anything. Yeah.
So you'll notice here I formed the bottom half of the Happle. I made it about 2/3 of the size I want it to be. Using my template. Use my template this way. Now I know how long it's supposed to be. I've got that section there earmarked out for this particular Happle. And then now what I'm going to do is heat up the whole piece. And then at that mark, this mark here, I'll pinch it down, puff into it a little bit to start that apple growing. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting I actually watched a bunch of YouTube time-lapse videos of apples actually growing because that's kind of what it was. It didn't help, but it was cool to see.
So how, like, that is extremely hot.
Oh, yes. What's the temperature when glass is molten, Master? 2,500, 3,000. 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So now I puffed it in, I puffed it out, you'll see it's about the width that I want it to be at, the height that I want it to be at, but the shaping is not quite there, so I'll go back in briefly, heat up the bottom of it, just the bottom half of the apple. That's where I use this tool, brace it. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing it against the glass I don't want to move so that it'll cool faster, so the glass that's still hot moves more. So there's my, pretty much the Happle. Kind of like it. The bottom could be a little bit more puffed out, so I will keep that bottom a little bit more. Puff and blow it out. That's my first one in this string. I'll go in. Now I'm going to pinch off the top to create the top opening as well as the bottom of the next one. So I'll do that. This tube here is thicker, so instead of, if I condense it down, it's going to be too thick there relative to the rest of the Happle. So I actually do a combination of condensing and stretching to maintain the wall thickness of the glass. Try to keep that wall thickness as consistent as possible. Now that I've gotten that kind of thinned out, I'll go in on this side and I'll pinch off to create the top of the Happle. That's it. And then what that does is it also has thinned out the glass between that and the next one on the string. So I can just move down the line, set up, heat up to do the second one, which I'll do quickly.
See it swelling as I watch it through this lens.
So yeah, as I mentioned, I'm not using a template or anything like that. I'm just trying to grow out each Happle out of the glass. And I only do it this way just to keep it interesting. It would be faster and easier if I used a template, but this is what's been making it somewhat interesting for the last 10,000 tries. I turn down the heat and the flame size to a smaller flame because I don't want to heat up too much of this glass. Because right now I'm getting ready to pull this section off. So I'm going in, forming up that top Happle there. Now I have two there. I'm more concerned about making sure they fit into the packaging. So I worry about that in terms of my diameters and parameters. Not so worried about the actual shape of each of them. Mainly because most people only buy them one at a time. And as I said, I challenge anyone to find two apples.
They're the same.
No, they're the same. Now, what you'll notice I just did there was I really thinned that out, made it nice and thin, and pulled it apart so that when I rip it off and separate the two tubes, there's minimal amount of glass that's there. I'll do the same thing here. This is something that Master has asked me to do, which is to thin out that section in between the apples so that when he's working by hand, it'll be easier for him to separate out. Whereas I'm working on a machine, and essentially it allows me to take coffee breaks or dad breaks. So I've gone in and I'm trying to thinned out that as much as I need to, so that way when, in the next stage, when they're removed from this string, it'll be easier to count. Finally, I'll go in on this end. I'll keep this section up here. I'll let that condense down.
It's
Boom.
two bottoms against each other.
Two top. Well, no, that's the bottom. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
bottom. See? Apples. Thanks, Al. Thanks for measuring my point. All right. So I'll turn that off, and then I will take these two, and I'll pull them off of here, and then I'll place them over to this station here at Master.
Okay, so now they're full. So we're coming over here, and
We're
we're
going to
going.
come over here on this side. He's working off of, now what he's going to do now is he's going to finish off the Happle.
I'll talk it through one.
You'll talk it through one of
I'll
them.
talk it through one of them and then do the other one.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right? And then that way, kind of gives you both, right?
Correct.
So now once the prep work is done over on the lathe, it now has to come over to me to put the mouthpiece on and finish off the top part. So first up, I just need to clean up and close off the top that's left over from the lathe. This is to prevent condensation from building up on the inside. So it's just a quick little maneuver there to tear off a little excess glass. Blowing into the glass, I pop the hole out there, and now using graphite, I use it to open the hole up to be the exact same size as the 12.7 millimeter tube that I used to attach to it as a mouthpiece. How do I know it's the exact same size? Experience. So I have the tube here with an open end to it, and then I warm both of them up just a little bit right here, and attach it, and then I position it the way I want as the glass is cooling down. Then I choose where I want to melt the glass off, the length of the mouthpiece, which typically is going to be about 0.75 to 1 inch in length from the Happle. So I break that off just like that, and using stainless steel tweezers, I just clean the end off a little bit, which makes the last step a little bit easier. Now I need to make that mouthpiece fully melted in and homogeneous with the rest of the Happle. This creates the strength in the Happle. Okay, gas. So I'm going to use a hand torch just to get the heat precisely where I want. Because I don't need to heat very much glass here, I just need to heat a very small section at a time. And I'm just going to work around slowly, get it all melted in, getting tiny little puffs between heats to put the glass to the position I need it to be. To melt the borosilicate glass, we use a combination of propane and pure oxygen to create the temperatures that we need. So I'm just warming the glass up just to make sure that it's all the same temperature again. This is just to prevent cracks from forming. We have a Bunsen burner in front of me here. That keeps will heat the glass up to about 1200 to 1300 degrees. If you're not careful, that is hot enough for the glass to sort of start to bend and be a little bit malleable. So you do have to be careful to sort of keep it within the 1000 to 1200 range. Now that I have opened the hole up on the top, I'm going to heat up the glass with the flame and use my graphite to push it down and create a flat top. Now, one area of the Happle that needs to be consistent is the hole at the top. The top needs to be consistent so that stem that we've shown you fits properly and has the right amount of wiggle space. So I use another graphite reamer here, and this one has a measured line on it. So I open the top of the hole here to 14 millimeters. Once again, I'm just going to make sure that that's flat with the graphite. And then again, pushing feed into it to make sure it's all even. Now, what I need to do is open up the mouthpiece and make it functional. So to do that, I'm going to heat up a different piece of glass. It's in my right hand now. I'm going to get it to be molten hot, whereas the glass that's in my left hand is going to be technically cold, but really it's going to be like 1,000 degrees. But compared to the 2,500 or 3,000 degrees that this side was, this side was cold, relatively speaking. So now I'm going to allow that heat line to dissipate, which will create stress and allow me to snap it off in a very nice, clean way right there. Now, if I just left that, it would have been razor sharp. So a little bit of flame goes a long way. Now, once again, bring heat in, introduce it to the glass, bring it all up to the same temperature. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to use tongs covered in Kevlar to hold the piece of work and melt it off. This is why the step that Dave took earlier for me is so important. I'm not able to manipulate the glass very effectively in the tongs, so the less amount of turning that I can do, the better off I am. Now I need to make the bottom flat, so I'm going to spin it around, and once it's all hot here, I'm going to once again use graphite to bring it down and flatten it off. And there you have it, a finished Happle.
Thanks, Master. I'm going to go through making stems. Here's that long piece of rod. 8 millimeters in diameter is the one I like to use for the stems for the Happle. Just going to break this down really quickly in half. So a little bit more manageable for my short little arms. First thing I'll do is I will heat up the corner and I'll push in the Maria, which is the circular lump that acts as a stopper. So I'll get a section of it hot like this and molten, pull it out of the flame, and then I'm squeezing it together to make that rounded disc. Okay? Second step after that is I will take and pull off the end that I'm going to form the little wedge side of it where you attach your hash. And what I'll do with that is I'll rip this off, set this aside for the next one, use my handy trusted butter knife that forced my wife to have to buy a whole new set because she was missing a butter knife. And I'll just take it and I'll press in that little wedge in that, or as also been described, a little butt crack. And that little butt crack there will sit in there. Heat it up a little bit just to quickly even out the temperature on that. Switch hands, place this, have these tongs here. I bent them, especially made them so they'll grab the piece. I will heat up this end, which is the end side that I will use, and press into a leaf. And it turns out that Master had bought this little pair of tweezers that have a little pattern on them, and I've been using these for every single Happle stem. Take it, do a half cut, and that squishes it up to form that leaf pattern. There you are. Set that down, and then I can make 10,000 more of those. And
Awesome. Awesome.
And that's the steps to making a Happle.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you make colored ones, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We do.
Okay,
But
cool.
the colored ones and the colored ones, we don't make very many of them because of the fact that the price point changes.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And it's just you see the process. We're doing this all day long, every day.
Yeah. Yep.
300 a week, right? So that's just all we do, and I mean, like, hey, can't complain about it. At the same time, it's definitely not quite. This is not the glassblower's dream, but yeah. But I mean, really,
You're producing these in your
you know,
shop out back.
we waited till we hit 10,000 before announcing the licensing agreement, because you know what? At 10,000, I think I'm allowed to do whatever the fuck I want.
You sold 10,000 then.
We've made way more than that, but we've sold out the door.
Correct.
10,000. That doesn't even account for Masters, hash kettles, and hash lanterns. We're only talking about the nugs Happle.
Right.
We're not even talking about the Happles before the nugs. These are strictly just the ones for
Just
the overlord.
just the Happle.
Just the ones for the overlord. Right. Which is wonderful, right?
Mhm.
Love them. I love my overlords very much.
Yeah.
Overlords.
And as we haven't really mentioned, as you can see, you can use, well, this is the dewdrop. You can use it as an E now.
With
That's
an E now.
A dab rig.
Yeah.
And the point of the dewdrop was to provide that option for the consumer who doesn't dab very often. Right? It's for those people who prefer hash, prefer joints, but they'll do the occasional dab and things like that. That's why we built this, and that's why we released this, is because we want to give that option to people without having to outlay a lot of money.
Now, did I see a video as well that you can do hash in there?
Yep.
You can do dabs.
Yep.
Now, did I see you put a banger in there as well as a bowl?
Yeah.
For smoking herb?
Yeah, but sure. Yeah. But I argue you're going backwards. Sure, you can smoke flour out of this thing. But why when you can smoke hash?
But it's the multi-tool. It's the Swiss knife.
We're trying to make it to be that way.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a daily driver. But most people have a preference. Right? They have their preference on how they like to consume. And the whole idea, as we talked about earlier, about the idea about glass being one of the cleanest delivery devices for cannabis, or for really a lot of things, right? For anything, really, right? We're really hoping that this the Drew Drop is going to be something that gives that person their regular option, in addition to all of the other things for once in a while, right? Because very rarely do people smoke flour, hash, and dabs out of the exact same piece.
Well,
the taste is really weird. It tastes really
and if you're doing it in a vaporizer, especially some of those old style ones, that was a mess.
Right, it's a mess, and so therefore, right, so that's why I'm like, no, you don't want to.
But yeah, this gives you the base. People have to have their own adapters.
Is it the ideal dab rig? Possibly for the right person, right? But there's so many different designs out there. This is really just meant to give, you know what? In a pinch, here you go.
Yeah.
This is your daily driver.
Yeah.
It's your daily smoker. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's going to retail for $100. It's a bigger investment than the Happle is, but with the water filtration and the fact that you can use it for any form of consumption, we're hoping that that'll justify the pricing for it.
Yeah.
Right. And really, right now, the last thing people need is a fancy marble on the side of it that they don't need to get high.
Okay. Well, guys, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mastah and Dave for allowing us to come here today in order to film you guys doing your work, as well as learning all the history behind the Happle and how to see how the Happle is created. We really appreciate you allowing us to come in here today. film you doing your thing, what you love to do. That's blowing glass, answering some questions, and you've had a great success, and we wish you continued success.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Els.
Al, you got anything you'd like to say?
Enjoy.
Thanks. I enjoyed watching it. I watched the whole thing. I just sat here because I've always liked that stuff, but I've always avoided going near it. It's scary.
So don't forget, go to your cannabis store in your area, whether you live in British Columbia or Newfoundland, and you can go in there, check to see if they've got the Happle. If they don't, request that they bring you one in and enjoy your hash.
You got a website where people can go directly?
www.canarisswag.shop. It's the Overlord's website.
Okay.
Instagram.
MastahGlass. And I'm Dave. Earl Electric Dave.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.